the PGA Tour Superstore, or had the pleasure of meeting Jill. But I want to have Jill take a minute just to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about PGA Superstore. Jill?
Hey, it's good to see you again, Ericka. So I'm Jill Thomas. I'm the Chief Marketing and Customer Experience Officer here at the PGA Tour Superstore. The PGA Tour Superstore is the largest specialty golf retailer in the world. We have 46 stores here in the U.S., and we are growing pretty significantly, obviously fueled by this amazing year we've had in the golf industry, which we'll talk about a little bit more. But we are an experiential golf retailer. Our stores are large. We have hitting bays and a huge assortment, and it's really a destination retail environment. And we're really focused on golf, obviously through our name PGA Tour Superstore, and tennis. What some may not realize is that we are owned by Arthur Blank as part of Arthur Blank's family of businesses under the umbrella of A&B Sports and Entertainment, which includes his other holdings such as the Atlanta Falcons and Atlanta United. So we're based here in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm super happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. I did not know that about tennis. So good to know. So you mentioned it's been a wild 18 months. I like to think about it as pandemic, protest, pandemic again, politics, back to pandemic. With that in mind, how has the pandemic impacted the business that you've seen and the growth at PGA Superstore?
Yeah, it's funny to be sitting here in almost July of 2021 and on really a record and historic year for our business on the given everything that's happened in our world. There's almost sort of a bit of a guilty feeling about that. But the way that it really has resonated with us is we've provided an outlet for people in this time of need. So, one of the things, and you and I have talked about this, whoever came up with the term social distancing, I know had good intentions, but, as we know, the health and mental health of our communities are really struggling with that whole idea. So I think what has happened with golf is people have discovered that it's a way to what we say physically distance, but stay socially connected in an outdoor environment, in a healthy environment, in a time where people were really looking for a way to separate and think about their mind, body, and spirit. And golf has provided that outlet to over 25 million people in this country, and it has been discovered by a whole new group of people, which is the really exciting part, and then rediscovered by sort of that core audience who maybe had lost, who had kind of lost touch with the game. So it is a really exciting time to be in the golf industry, and the way that I really like to think about it is, we're just providing this outlet to help people kind of deal with what we've all been dealing with over the last 18 months.
Absolutely. I think it's so interesting how you say so many people went back to golf because it was something where you could be outside, still feel productive, still have a hobby, right? And so I love the phrase physically distanced but socially connected. Somehow everybody missed that, but that's really what we need. So obviously this is a women in retail event. So I have to ask, what does it mean to you to be a female leader in your category?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've told this story before in my career. I've worked on a lot of different brands, really great brands, from Disney to PepsiCo to some QSR brands where the female is usually the decision maker. And this is really the first assignment I've had in my entire career where it's a very male focused business and customer. And that is obviously one of the fun parts about what's happening right now, is that it's growing and diversity in the game is expanding. So it took me if I'm being really honest, it wasn't as easy as I would have assumed it to be, where you just sort of, hey, I understand marketing. I understand how to connect consumers to brands and brands to consumers. and so I'll just come in and do what I do. But honestly, it was a bit of a transition for me to be surrounded by a lot of men who generally are extremely, like, I call them the tip of the spear, or sometimes we say inside baseball. It's such a sport where there's a huge amount of passion from the fan base, and they talk to each other in almost like code. So in order to make the game more inclusive, I'm always trying to break the code down. And so I see myself as a good ambassador to, like, kind of break down some of those barriers so we can make the game more inclusive. My role is the communication side of the brand. So I really want to focus on that and say, hey, there's terminology that we use, there's things that we take for granted, that we really need to kind of break down if we want to make this game more accessible to all. At the same time, we pride ourselves on our connection to the PGA Tour and our authenticity, and the fact that there is no better place or retailer to partner with if you want to elevate your game. So we have to kind of be inside baseball and really know the game. So it's a balancing act all the time. For me personally, it's been fun. Of course, everyone's very welcoming. Sometimes I say things like, when they're having conversations and they're talking about something, I might say, hey, does the average golfer understand that? Or does the average consumer understand that? And then we sort of address those things head on, as I have a tendency to do. I'm pretty direct or straightforward. So it's been a challenge, but also a welcome challenge. And I think that the questioning of some of these things is really breaking through and allowing us to reach new audiences and be more personalized and adapted to new people in the game, whether it's experience or men versus women, or just different audiences altogether.
Yeah, it's really interesting, thinking about the growth and the future growth for your market. You do have to expand. And so really what you're talking about is leveraging your brand to expand the audience and grow people who love golf, like love golf lovers or golf players. Which reminds me of a question that you asked me, which I thought was so telling. You said to me, do I consider myself a golfer? Am I a golfer? And I didn't know how to answer that. And so it really gets to what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's really funny. I can't think of another example. And you and I were talking about the running example. If someone says, "Are you a runner?" It's kind of a yes or no question. But for some reason, golf really causes people to hesitate. So it's like, "Hey, are you a golfer?" Well, what does that mean? I think there's this assumption that if I say yes, I am a golfer, that I somehow have this superpower and a very extra special skill set, and I'm a fabulous golfer. Well, that's not true. Very few people are fabulous golfers. I think that's one of the big barriers that we have to work through as we invite more people into the game. Less than 40% of all golfers will break 100. And if par is 72, that's what the professionals are shooting. You're in your mind, you're thinking, well, I'm not a golfer because I don't play at that level. Well, that's not true. If you get out there and you try your best and you swing that golf club, you are a golfer. If you go to Top Golf, if you swing it in your driving range in your backyard, you're a golfer. And the more people we can get to say, I am a golfer with confidence, regardless of your skill level, I think the better off this game will be and the more inclusive it will be. And that really, for me, is my mission in life, is really to help people understand that you're a golfer. If you have an interest in the sport, you're a golfer. So I know it sounds kind of silly, but I think it's a really good litmus test for, to kind of test this theory out. And I've been playing golf my entire life, and I struggled with it when I was first starting. And in fact, when I was interviewing for the role and people were asking me, as I was going through interview to interview to interview, hey, are you a golfer? I was like, yes. But the answer was yes. I grew up around the game. So I thought that was an interesting insight. It's a little focus group of one, but as I've tested the theory and some of our consumer research, I think I'm right about this. And I really appreciate that the the PGA Tour and the golf industry, the PGA of America, the LPGA, the USGA have all gotten together to launch this campaign called Make Golf Your Thing. And it's really about that insight, that how can we make people comfortable and embraced by this game, which we all know is not an easy game to play. But with places like Top Golf and a lot of these new emerging concepts, like here in Atlanta, we have one called Fairway Social. It's just all about embracing new people and getting people more comfortable.
It's so true. And I think I never thought about it until you said that, because other, like other tests would be, sure, I'm a runner. No one asked me if I ran a marathon or if I ran, do I run an 8-minute mile? Does that make me a runner? But like when it came to golf, I think there is an expectation that, I have to be good in order to say I'm a golfer, or I have to be good in order to go out and play. And I think it's probably even one of the reasons, people hesitate to go out with colleagues, or, and you can see that if you're someone who didn't grow up with golf or doesn't feel comfortable with golf, and you might not step into that, social work environment and take on a game of golf because you would feel concerned. You might be, feel like you're not really up for that. And that could keep people out of the game. So I love that focus, like you said, the PGA. And also, we talked about one of the campaigns that you've been running, Girl Got Drive, I think, if I've got it right, which I just love. I have a daughter, so I totally get that. Can you talk a little bit about that, how that's impacted, your store, of course, right? The performance and the growth that you've seen, and maybe even a little bit of your own team's perspective.
Yeah, I love that you asked me about this. It's something I'm really, really proud of. And I love the how my team's perspective was changed, because quite frankly, I adopted a mostly male team. And in the same way that I didn't always think like them, they certainly weren't always thinking like me. And so we've had a lot of conversation about, the discipline of marketing, how it's about customer first and not about, you. So that's been kind of interesting. But so earlier this year, we really we see the incredible growth of women in the game. Now, women doesn't mean beginner. And that, quite frankly, was sort of one of the things that I was dealing with as I'm new to the industry, and I'm meeting with the big manufacturers and the big brands that sort of run this business. Quite often, women were not a part of their product launches, their lineups, or their thought process, or when they were, they generally would talk about colors. Sometimes they say pink it and shrink it, and then it's for women. And my observation as a new person in the industry was it felt a little condescending. And I don't think they intended it that way, certainly, but I just think they didn't realize that, being female and being new to the game doesn't necessarily mean we're beginners. I mean, there's a lot of athletes, I think women today are very different in terms of their desire to compete and meet their personal best and achieve, from that standpoint. So, we were really asking ourselves, what are we doing to support new people to the game and women to the game? And we kind of recognized we really didn't have a voice, and we didn't have the insight that we needed. So we really invested in that. And obviously the demographics and the stats around the growth of the game, 50%, almost 50% of off-course golfers are women. And this is a really important emerging audience. And so we got real serious, and we developed a campaign called Girls Got Drive. And we partnered with International Women's Golf Day, Elisa Gaudet, who has put together a global initiative to drive awareness for women in golf. We were kind of fighting against an older initiative, which I mentioned to you. It's called Invite Her, was sort of a previous campaign, which again, for me, felt a little like you're missing the mark. I don't need to be invited. I'm maybe I'll invite you, So we really try to get underneath this insight, and I'm so proud of it. The perspective change for my team was, they kept, as we were writing briefs and we were trying to get the creative done, they kept saying, this is about empowering women in golf. And I kept saying, drop the golf part. This is just about supporting and empowering women. and just making sure they feel confident to be in our store, they feel welcome. We're providing the right resources, and the right instruction and the right tips and tricks, and that it's a place for them. And so we launched this campaign, and it was a labor of love for our team. And we launched it in right around June 1st, which is when International Women's Golf Day is, the first Tuesday of June. We launched the campaign, and it has a lot of legs, and I won't get into it, but it's really meant to be girls got drive, girls got initiative, girls got style, swagger, kind of fill in the blank. Like, girls got confidence, it's all the things that we want as women to, to really kind of, elevate our confidence is really kind of where it was coming from, especially with golf. How do we make people feel comfortable? Just get out there and play this game. Because I kind of feel like it's the last horizon. Like, if I can conquer golf, if I can get out there with those colleagues that invite me, and I'm terrified that I'm going to, maybe I'm going to whiff the ball, or maybe I'm going to drive it 170 yards too. I just got to get out there. But we launched it in June. It's a tent pole for us. It'll continue on, and we have a ton of content and assets that we've developed. Super proud of the fact that when on International Women's Golf Day, we staffed our Indianapolis store entirely with women in every job function, from fitter to instructor, and every other function in the store. While the women were running the store, the men were down the street at the Wheeler Mission in Indianapolis supporting a women and children's shelter. And it's not lip service. It's really a commitment at every level to growing the game and being inclusive to women, and in our company to welcoming in more women into leadership roles, into store roles, into our PGA professional certified trainers and fitters roles. Like, we want more women in the game. So I'm really proud of it, and we'll continue to work on it and tweak it and make it bigger. But it's probably the best work we've done.
I think it's amazing. And, it's so interesting to even think about, it's not even just about the game of golf, but taking that idea of empowering women from a very young age, and doing, leveraging your brand to do the part that you can. And even that small adjustment to say, this is about empowering women in golf. Actually, no, this is just about empowering women. That small change makes a huge difference for the rest of their lives, and getting them into that game and getting them confident. It's such an amazing example too of where your brand can be authentic. I know we talked, in this, you heard the previous speakers talk about being authentic and, having brand values. And whether or not these brand values are authentic is very clear to your audience, right? Your shoppers and your potential shoppers recognize it right off the bat. So clearly, by not just taking the campaign, but staffing the store, going in and doing charity work on that day that supports women, just such a great example of comprehensively taking the PGA Tour Superstore brand and really leaning into this area to drive significant growth, not only for women, but even for other, groups. And I think one of the things that you were talking about, really interesting, going beyond females and adding girls and women to the game, you're really expanding your outreach to so many new segments, helping them to grow a love of golf, and also recognizing that that's where really the whole industry grows. I think people would be surprised maybe about some of the ways that you are, maybe non-traditional ways that you are really growing your brand into these new segments. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, we're really fortunate to be owned and led by Arthur Blank. He is not only an innovator in retail, but he is a person that fights very hard for social justice and issues that matter to the world, beyond golf, beyond football, beyond any game. He is about giving back. So we have a set of core values. Put people first is one of them, which really says, in everything that we do, we have to find ways to be more inclusive. I know that DEI is like a very popular topic, but golf is tough because it hasn't always been seen as the most inclusive sport, and our athletes aren't always the most diverse. But I really like to point to the women's game. I mean, the women are, first of all, they're really, really good. And it is a very diverse group of women, and they are so talented. And it's like, for me, it provides great hope and great outlook to what the future of the game is going to look like. So we're very much into giving back, and one of our other core values, giving back to others. Arthur has signed the Giving Pledge, so he is all about giving back. You know, he says to us all the time, our job is to make as much money as we can so we can give it back, and that is for real. He is a huge patron of the First Tee. I am on the board of the First Tee here in Metro Atlanta, and it is all about teaching character lessons through the game of golf. I mean, when you think about the kind of lessons that you learn in terms of integrity, you know, it's the only sport that I can think of where you're your own umpire and judge, right? You know, so there's all these lessons, honesty, all these things that you can learn. And so we really try to, we just announced yesterday, we've selected 40 young people from across the country through the First Tee to attend a leadership seminar in Montana at one of Arthur's ranches. And, you know, we really do give back. I don't think we always tell the story. So I don't think it's, you know, it hasn't historically been like the first thing we're going to talk about, but that's because it's very substantive and it means a lot to us. So whether we're reaching out to juniors, whether we're reaching out to different socioeconomic groups or groups of diversity or communities, here in Atlanta are very involved in the West Side and really trying to create experiences for a lot of the kids on the West Side of Atlanta. So, you know, we're really trying to expand the game, the audience, but really we're trying to make a difference in the world. And I know that maybe that sounds, maybe those two things sound, you know, in conflict with, you know, you're a retailer. But honestly, if you dig deeper, you'll see that we're doing a lot of things, including, you know, talking about voting. We just converted the stadium, as many of you know, here in Atlanta, we were the largest vaccination single site vaccinator for many months, and one of the earlier ones to do that. And that all really comes down to Arthur Blank's commitment to making a difference in the world, and that really permeates through the entire organization, which makes me really proud.
So many good examples, and it's interesting. We have there's so many great comments coming in too. I think it's Jared who was asking about his daughter and bringing his daughter. How do we remind her it's cool for a 12-year-old to be interested in golf? And you know, it's girls, but it's also other groups. And I think one of the things you talked to me about was this new segmentation, kind of like new segments that you're thinking about. It's because you're trying to grow, right? You're growing in an area that's very traditional, maybe very conservative, like you said, an audience persona that is maybe very kind of traditional, who we might imagine to be golfers, but really there's all these new segments that are coming out, and you're creating so many new programs to lure them in, really, and get them to kind of realize that golf is a place for them too. Can you talk about some of those other programs that you're doing?
Yeah, I think that's probably some of the most important work, because the game is changing as we invite new people into the game. And, you know, I sometimes tell the story about, you know, young women and topics of diversity, like they're not having it, like in young men and women, like they are the most educated, culturally and racially diverse audience in any generation, and they're not having it. You know, they're not, you know, I think some of the issues we're having, you know, I hope they're a little bit generational, and as our young people lead our country forward, you know, they're really the ones making the difference. So, you know, I want to be really conscious of that, and I do think it's really important to make golf cool again, you know. And I think we have a lot of players and luminaries within the world of golf that can help us do that. Yes, the core audience is exactly probably who you think it is, and they are the ones that spend the most, and they are definitely the most engaged in the game. But there are so many emerging audiences that we're trying to cultivate. So I call it the core traditional, which you can describe without my help. And then there's the core emerging, which looks at the game totally differently. It's about socially connecting with their friends. They're the ones listening to using their wingman to listen to music on the course. They are trying to connect with their friends. And yes, they're playing a game of golf and they love the game. Don't get me wrong, they want to do well at it, but they really value the time spent with others. And then there's the, women, and then which is, we really need to talk to women differently. I mean, I don't want to get into like any anatomical conversation, but women have features about them that make them different. And we have to learn different. We have to hold the club in different ways. And like, nobody tells you that, when you're in, a lot of men aren't comfortable telling women that, but a female instructor will tell you that. And it's important. And then there's new to golf. And what you and I were talking about is this incredible explosion in new golfers. Now it's our job to keep them engaged. If we do not find ways to make them feel welcome and embraced, then, we'll go back to a stagnant industry as we were maybe 5 years ago. So, and then there's the junior segment. I mean, the young people, and, those are boys and girls who are both, again, they're growing up a little bit differently. They're not bogged down with some of the weight of, sort of old beliefs that some of us might be bogged down with, like, I can't do that, or it's expensive, or it takes too long, or I'm not good at that, therefore I can't do that. They're like, oh no, I can be good at anything. So they kind of don't bring to the course this mental thing, this barrier of, I'm not sure I can do that. They show up ready to go. I was just, my heart, be still my heart. I was just last week with a group of about 50 little girls with the First Tee of Metro Atlanta. They were doing a girls golf day last Tuesday, the day of the KPMG, the Women's Open that was here this past week. And these little people were just sitting there, eyes wide. We were talking about being bold and being brave, and they were just like ready to go, little sponges. And it gave me a lot of hope. It gave me a lot of excitement about what this game is going to look like, who's going to be playing, how do we make it more accessible. I just think the future is really bright for this game, and I'm really excited to be a part of connecting what we do to that bigger idea, which is making this a fun place for people to get out, get in touch with nature, get in touch, spend time with your friends. It's mind, body, and spirit. It's a mental game. You have to kind of get into your head and find mindfulness and peace, so I just think, obviously I love the game. I loved it before I got here, and I love it even more now. So I'm probably a little bit biased, but I think if there's anybody out there that's thinking, well, I can't do that, or I'm not a golfer, I encourage you to give it a try. I think you'll be surprised.
Absolutely. I know. I feel like it always depends on who you played with. I just was always thankful to be outside. The courses are always beautiful. If we could get over the fact that you might lose a bunch of balls, and you're just there, like you said, having the social engagement. As the CMO, you've had to really work to engage different segments like this and bring them into the stores. And it's not just about, like you said, the sport. So some of the core segments really care about the best equipment, right? The best, right? But there's others, like other programs that you're running that are even, having products at all different price points to get some of those new players in. To your point, I love the improve your style game, right? And because there's so many different, and really there's a lot of influencers, a lot of new emerging folks in the golf space that are helping to fuel some of that.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we are growing too as a marketing organization. When I started a year and a half ago, we had 12 people in the marketing team. And in fact, of the 12, I think really only 3 that worked in marketing. The rest were kind of e-commerce merchandisers and specialists. And e-commerce wasn't a big part of our business. In fact, digital in general wasn't really a priority. Fast forward 18 months, the team's closer to 25. I think we'll end up around 30 to 36, somewhere in that neighborhood when we're kind of fully staffed. We've onboarded a person who's brilliant, who I recruited. I worked with him at the Walt Disney Company, and I recruited him from Under Armour. He's leading digital strategy and really bring a fresh, cool, technical skill to our team. We're trying to get better. When we just hired our first social media manager yesterday, can you believe that? It was like my side hustle, and one of our brand managers, like, because we like the game and we're usually watching, so every once in a while we tweeted and stuff. I mean, it's that. So we have a long way to go. But again, that's what gets me really excited, because I can see, we're just scratching the surface of how we can connect with different audiences in different channels in different ways. So I would say, is if you go out and I've intrigued you at all and you look at PGA Tour Superstore and you look at our social feed and you're like, well, that's not all that great. Or, you're getting our emails every day and it's batch and blast still. Keep watching. We're getting smarter, we're getting better, and we're really trying to build something more meaningful that helps us foster relationships with customers and different customers and be more personalized and really find that way to connect at the right level. So for those core traditionals who want to talk about MOI, which stands for moment of inertia, and all kinds of crazy things that really serious golfers want to talk about, we'll talk to them about that and we'll create digital experiences for them. But for women, we might talk about other things, or for new to golf or juniors, parents of juniors. We are not even there yet in terms of segmentation and really programmatically communicating in an automated and personalized way. We're building, our loyalty program is being overhauled. I mean, we were really like at the beginning of a journey, and as all the marketers out there know, how much fun is that? Like that's the funnest time ever. And I always say we're on this transformational journey to modern marketing, and it's going to be a 3-year process at least for us. And I think, I'm happy with where we are after 18 months. Despite, a big challenge that we just overcame with COVID. I think it made us better. It expanded our audience, that's for sure, and that helped. And e-commerce, of course, took off like everybody else's did, which made us more digitally focused. So these are all good things. And the road is, long. We got a long way to go, but I think we're going to get there. We're going to do some cool stuff. And, if Girls Got Drive is an indication of what we're going to, I'm super excited about the future of the game, the future of our brand, and how we can maybe make a difference in the world in our own little way.
Absolutely. I think it's just, it's been, first of all, I commend you on the journey that you've been on. And I also wish you well, because you've got a way to go, and the fact that you are leading this transformation during a very, tough time for everyone. What's been accomplished is really amazing. I mean, the growth that you've seen, and, like you said, really the recognition that now it's time to capitalize on it. I think there's so much for the audience that probably resonates with them in terms of that. And of course, personally, I love the story of the segmentation and how you're starting to really expand and better understand all of the different people that really comprise your audience, the different humans with different motives for shopping at the store and for being involved in the sport. And, that's data is obviously near and dear and passionate to my heart, coming from Resonate and the Ignite platform. So I think I'm going through questions to see if they come in. And if anyone else has any other questions for Jill, please put them in the chat. I know I'm looking over all of our questions. I'm checking the chat. I think we're almost at time also. So it's been great talking to you. Jill, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing all the ways that the PGA Tour Superstore is leading the charge to make golf a sport for everyone. If you haven't already done so, guys, make sure you follow them on social. Jill's asking, she wants you to keep up with her and her team. I know I'm going to keep up with her and see how things continue to evolve under her leadership. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it always.
Thank you so much, Jill and Erica, for closing out our day on women in retail marketing. I loved hearing about the Girls Got Drive campaign and how you empower women by redefining who the golfer is. And I'm excited to see how the PGA Tour Superstore continues to evolve throughout this golf renaissance. And Erica, fabulous job moderating. So thank you both so much, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. Today was an incredible day of programming and content from our speakers and moderators, and we're excited for all of our upcoming days on this topic as we see how inspiring female leaders continue to disrupt and progress the retail industry. And we hope you will all join Brand Innovators tomorrow on Wednesday, June 30th for the Identity and the Cookieless Future Summit at 11:50 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll be joined by marketing leaders from Gannett, Viacom CBS, Disney Streaming Services, Textile Fashion Group, Kimberly Clark, and many more. Thank you for joining, everyone, and we hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.